The moment the red wine hit my face, time slowed. I felt the liquid soak into my dress, warm and sticky, the scent of ripe berries and alcohol filling my nostrils. The gasps around the dinner table echoed like distant thunder, but no one moved. No one said a word. Then came the laughter. His laughter. "Why are you always acting like such an idiot?" My husband, James, smirked, swirling the remaining wine in his glass like he had just delivered the best punchline of the night. His friends chuckled nervously, glancing at each other, unsure whether to join in or look away. I swallowed hard. My cheeks burned, not just from the wine, but from humiliation. This was supposed to be a casual dinner with James's friends, an evening where I, Kaya, was the supportive wife, the woman who smiled in the right places, laughed at the right jokes. Instead, I had become the entertainment. I could feel all their eyes on me, waiting to see how I would react. I took a deep breath, wiped my face with my napkin, and stood up. Slow, controlled, graceful. "Excuse me," I said simply, my voice steady, giving nothing away. Then I turned on my heel and walked away, ignoring the whispers trailing behind me. Inside, my heart pounded, my hands trembled, but I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. I left the restaurant and drove home alone. James didn't chase after me. He was too busy reveling in his moment, playing the charming host, deflecting the uncomfortable glances of his friends with another joke. This wasn't the first time he had humiliated me in public. It had started small, belittling my ideas during conversations, making sarcastic remarks about my hobby when I spoke about my photography business. But lately, the comments had turned crueler, sharper, and now this, a public spectacle. Still, as I sat in the quiet of our dimly lit kitchen, I asked myself the same question I always did. Was it really that bad? I hated that part of me, the part that always wanted to justify his behavior, the part that told myself he didn't mean it, that he was just stressed, that maybe I had embarrassed him somehow. But tonight felt different. Tonight, something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry, not yet. The anger would come later. What I felt now was something far more dangerous. Clarity. I heard the front door open, James's footsteps echoing down the hall, slow and casual. I pictured him, tie loosened, still basking in the glow of the evening, expecting to find me sulking, maybe even crying, so he could wrap his arms around me and say something dismissive. "You know I was just joking, babe. Don't be so sensitive. You embarrassed yourself more by overreacting." I had heard it all before, but tonight there would be no argument, no begging for an apology he wouldn't mean, no second chances. He stepped into the kitchen and saw me sitting at the table, my laptop open, a pen in my hand, writing something down in my notebook. His smile faded. "What are you doing?" he asked. I looked up at him, my face calm. "Making a list," I said. His brows furrowed. "A list of what?" I closed the notebook softly. "Of everything you've ever done to me." He laughed, an uneasy chuckle, the confidence in his voice slipping. "Oh, come on, Kaya, don't be dramatic." I didn't answer. Instead, I reached for my phone and pulled up a video. I turned the screen toward him. It was the dinner party. Someone had recorded it, and now, so had I. James's smirk twitched as he stared at the phone screen, the dim glow reflecting off his face. His hand tensed around the edge of the counter, his confident posture suddenly uncertain. "What is this?" he asked, his voice lower now. "Exactly what it looks like." On the screen, the video played, his voice clear, his laughter sharp, the splash of red wine staining my dress, the way I had simply wiped my face and walked away, and the reaction of his friends, some amused, others visibly uncomfortable. "Someone recorded it," I said, locking eyes with him. "They thought I should have a copy." I saw the flicker of fear behind his annoyance. James was a man who thrived on reputation. He had built his career on charm, on being the guy everyone liked. He wasn't the smartest or the most hardworking, but he was the one people wanted to have drinks with, the one who made jokes at just the right moments. But this was different. "Delete it," he said, his voice turning firm. "Right now." I tilted my head. "Why? It's just a joke, isn't it?" His jaw tightened. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. "You're overreacting, Kaya. Nobody cares about stupid things like this." "It was just a joke," I finished for him. "Tell me, James, if I had done the same to you, would it still be funny?" His lips pressed into a thin line. Of course not. If the roles had been reversed, if I had humiliated him in front of my friends, thrown a drink in his face, and laughed at his expense, he would have stormed out. He would have called me unstable, embarrassing, ridiculous. But James had spent years convincing me that his words were always just jokes, while my feelings were overreactions. Not anymore. "Kaya, come on." He forced a laugh, but I could see the cracks forming in his facade. "What are you trying to do here? Punish me? You're being ridiculous." I stood up slowly, picking up my notebook and flipping through the pages. "Do you know what this is?" I asked, tapping my fingers against the worn paper. James scoffed. "A diary of every time I pissed you off?" "Close," I said. "It's a record of every insult, every lie, every time you've made me feel small." I held his gaze. "I've been keeping track, James, and guess what? There's a pattern." His expression flickered between amusement and irritation. "You need to stop watching those dramatic self-help videos, Kaya. This is insane." "Is it?" I asked, stepping closer. "Because it wasn't insane when I sat quietly and let you treat me like an accessory to your life. It wasn't insane when you made me feel like I was lucky to have you, instead of the other way around." I saw it then, the moment it truly hit him. I wasn't just upset. I was done. James exhaled, shaking his head. "Fine, you're mad, I get it. So what now? You hold this video over my head forever?" I said I was sorry, he added. "You haven't actually apologized yet." "Jesus, Kaya, fine, I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have done it. Can we move on now?" There it was. Not real remorse, just irritation that I wasn't brushing it off like I always had. Moving on. I let the words roll over my tongue, as if I was testing them. James's body relaxed slightly. "Good. That's all I'm asking." "Oh no," I corrected. "I meant me moving on, not us." His head snapped up. "What?" "I called a lawyer today." I let the words settle between us. He blinked like I had spoken in a language he didn't understand. "You're not serious." I held up my phone again, this time showing a different screen, a list of legal consultation appointments. "Very serious." His laugh was hollow. "You're overreacting, Kaya. You're not actually going to throw our marriage away over this." "Our marriage?" I arched a brow. "The one where you insult me in public? The one where you make me feel like I'm nothing?" I shook my head. "James, I didn't ruin our marriage." "You did. I just finally decided to stop pretending otherwise." James ran a hand over his face, pacing the kitchen. He muttered something under his breath before turning back to me. "What do you want, huh?" His voice turned sharp. "Do you want me to get on my knees and beg? Is that what this is?" "I don't want anything from you, James," I said simply. "That's the point." He laughed again, but there was nothing amused about it. "You're being dramatic. You won't actually go through with this." I just smiled. "Wait and see." I turned to leave, but before I reached the hallway, I glanced over my shoulder one last time. "Oh, and James," I said lightly. "I'd think twice before laughing this off in front of your friends. You never know who else has a copy of that video." I didn't wait for his response. For the first time in years, I didn't care what he had to say. I just walked away. James didn't chase after me. Not right away. That wasn't his style. He liked to win, to manipulate, to wear me down with charm or, if necessary, with guilt. He was probably telling himself that I'd cool off, that I'd wake up in the morning and regret everything. He was wrong. I barely slept that night, but not because I was second-guessing myself. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. My mind was still buzzing, my heart still raw, but beneath it all was clarity, a quiet, resolute certainty. I was leaving him, and this time, I wouldn't let him talk me out of it. By the time I stepped into the kitchen the next morning, James was already there, leaning against the counter with a cup of coffee in hand. He looked at me like he was waiting for something. An apology, maybe. A sign that I was ready to talk this through. I gave him nothing. So he finally said, setting his mug down, "You had your little moment. You're feeling better now?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to remain calm. "I'm not having a moment, James." "Right." He let out a scoff. "You're still sticking with this ridiculous divorce talk, huh?" I turned away from him, opening the cabinet to grab my own mug. I wasn't going to engage in his game. That was what he wanted, to turn this into a fight he could win, to push my buttons until I exploded so he could twist it into me being the irrational one. When I didn't answer, his tone shifted. "Kaya, come on. We've been married for 8 years. You're seriously going to throw all of that away over one stupid night?" I turned to face him, my expression unreadable. "I'm not throwing anything away, James. You did that a long time ago. I'm just finally ready to admit it." I watched his face carefully, and for the first time I saw it. The fear. It was just a flicker, quickly masked by irritation, but it was there. "You're blowing this out of proportion," he said, his voice sharper now. "You think anyone actually cares about that video?" "My friends were laughing, Kaya. Nobody's taking this as seriously as you are." I leaned against the counter, tilting my head. "You sure about that?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling for a second before holding the screen up to him. "What's this?" he asked, frowning. "Check the comment section, James." The video, the one his friend had recorded, had been shared in their private group chat, the same one they used to share sports bets, inside jokes, and workplace gossip. Only this time, the messages weren't what he expected. Man, that was rough to watch. Dude, I don't think that was funny at all. Kind of messed up. Is Kaya okay? James's eyes darted over the screen, his grip on the phone tightening. "Why are you showing me this?" he snapped. "Because you seem to think your friends found it funny. Turns out, not everyone agrees." I could see the muscles in his jaw clench, his hands balling into fists at his sides. James hated looking bad. He cared about perception more than anything else, about being liked, about being admired. And now, for the first time, he was realizing that maybe, just maybe, people weren't laughing with him. They were laughing at him. "Okay, fine," he said, his voice low. "You made your point. You embarrassed me. Congratulations. Now delete the damn video, Kaya." I took a slow sip of my coffee, my heartbeat steady. "No." His face darkened. "Excuse me?" "I'm not deleting it, James. And I'm not staying with you." He let out a humorless laugh, shaking his head. "You think you're the only one who can play games? You want to go through with this? Fine. But don't think for a second I'm just going to roll over and let you take everything." There it was. The real James, the charming husband, the one who cracked jokes and played the role of the good guy. That was just a mask. Beneath it, he was exactly what I had always feared he was. A man who needed control. "I built this life too," he continued, stepping closer. "You think you can just walk away and leave me with nothing? You'd better think twice, sweetheart." I stared up at him, refusing to let him see the flicker of unease in my chest. "You're right, James," I said softly. "You did build this life, and I hope you enjoy it, because by the time I'm done, it's all you'll have left." He frowned. "What the hell does that mean?" I set my coffee down, picked up my bag, and walked toward the door. Before stepping out, I turned back just long enough to deliver the final blow. "By the way," I said over my shoulder, "you might want to check your bank account." And then I left, leaving him standing there, confusion and anger written all over his face. The first sign that James was unraveling came just 2 hours later. I was sitting in a quiet cafe, sipping a latte, when my phone buzzed on the table. I didn't have to look to know who it was. James. What the hell did you do? I took my time finishing my sip before unlocking my phone. Kaya, answer me now. I set the phone down and smiled. I wasn't going to respond. Not yet. Let him sweat. I already knew what he was discovering. Last week, when I first started considering leaving, I had moved half of our shared savings into a separate account under my name. Legally, I was entitled to it. I had earned just as much as he had. The difference was I had been smart enough to prepare. I had also removed myself as a co-signer on his credit card and frozen our joint account. If he wanted money, he would have to rely on his own. And that was a problem for James, because James wasn't good with his own money. He lived like a king on payday and complained like a pauper by the end of the month. Expensive nights out, overpriced gadgets, status symbol purchases to impress his friends. It had all drained him faster than he realized. Now he had to face the consequences. I checked my phone again. Kaya, you took our money? Are you insane? Kaya, I swear to God, fix this now. I exhaled slowly, the satisfaction settling deep in my bones. It was our money when I took half. But when he spent thousands on nonsense, that was his right. Typical. The next blow landed harder than the first. I didn't have to wait long to hear about it. That afternoon, my friend Lily called, her voice practically vibrating through the phone. Kaya, please tell me you've seen it. Seen what? I asked, even though I already had a feeling. The post. I opened the group chat Lily and I shared with a few mutual friends. The moment I saw the screenshot, my breath caught. James's boss had posted something, not naming names, but it was obvious who it was, about a man who can't respect his wife in private won't respect anyone in business either. Actions have consequences. James's boss had been at that dinner party, and apparently he hadn't laughed. Comments flooded in, subtle but telling. Wow, people really show their true colors sometimes. Humiliating your own wife in public? Yikes. Glad I know who not to work with. James had built his career on being likable. He wasn't the best at what he did, but he knew people. He charmed them, made them laugh, convinced them he was the guy to invite for drinks after work. But that charm was cracking now, because when you expose someone for who they really are, the people who once admired them start seeing the truth. And James, he was being exposed. I was still scrolling through the fallout when my phone rang. James. I let it ring, then a voicemail. I put in my earbuds and pressed play. Kaya, what the hell is going on? My boss won't return my calls. People are treating me like I'm some kind of monster because of you. His voice was shaking, anger barely contained. This is beyond petty. This is cruel. You're ruining my life over a damn joke. A pause. Then, quieter, almost desperate. Come on, babe, I didn't mean it like that. You know that. I closed my eyes. I knew that tone well. The shift from rage to pity, from anger to guilt-tripping. He was grasping, trying to pull me back into the cycle. But I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. By evening, James had gone from demanding to bargaining. Another message. Let's talk. Just us. No fighting, please. I stared at the words for a moment before typing back. Fine. Meet me at the house in an hour. Then I picked up my bag and headed out. When I arrived, James was already there, pacing. He turned sharply when I walked in. Okay. He exhaled. Let's be adults about this. Let's talk like normal people. I folded my arms. Go ahead. Look, I was an ass, I admit that. He ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. I was drunk. It was a stupid joke, but I didn't mean to hurt you. I raised an eyebrow. You weren't drunk, James. You had half a glass of wine. His jaw twitched. Fine, whatever. The point is I messed up, but you're going nuclear here. You're cutting off the accounts, turning people against me. What do you want? Revenge? I sighed, tilting my head. No, James. I just want to be done. His expression darkened. So that's it? You're walking away? Just like that? Just like that. For a second, he looked lost, as if it was only now sinking in that he wasn't winning this one. What am I supposed to do, Kaya? I shrugged. Figure it out. You always told me I was the problem. Now you get to see what life is like without me. His face hardened. You're going to regret this. I smiled faintly. No, James. You are. I turned and walked toward the door, feeling the weight of years fall from my shoulders. Before I stepped outside, I spoke one last time, not bothering to look back. Oh, and by the way, you might want to check your email. Then I left, leaving James standing alone in the house he once controlled, with the storm he never saw coming about to hit him full force. James wasn't ready for what was coming next. I could picture it perfectly. The way his face would twist as he opened his email, skimming the words, rereading them in disbelief. The way he'd rush to his laptop, typing frantically, hoping that what he was seeing wasn't real. But it was. By the time I got back to my apartment, the one I had quietly leased 2 months ago when I first started planning my escape, my phone was already buzzing. James. I ignored it. Another call, then another. By the time he left the voicemail, I was already pouring myself a glass of wine, settling into my new life with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. But still, I pressed play. Kaya, you... His voice cracked with anger. You're out of your damn mind. What the hell did you do? I took a slow sip of wine. Let's see how he handled this. The email I had sent wasn't to him. It was to his company's HR department. Attached was the video from the dinner party. A clear, undeniable display of verbal and emotional abuse. In public, no less. I didn't have to say much. Just a simple professional message. I am reaching out to formally report my soon-to-be ex-husband, James Carter, for repeated patterns of verbal and emotional abuse, as demonstrated in the attached footage. This is only one instance, but it reflects an ongoing issue that has impacted both his personal and professional reputation. Given your company's values, I felt it was important that this behavior be acknowledged. I knew exactly what I was doing. James worked for a company that prided itself on corporate ethics and leadership accountability. They hosted workshops on workplace respect, diversity, and inclusion. Their HR department took PR scandals very seriously, and now they had evidence of one of their own employees humiliating his wife in public. He wouldn't be able to talk his way out of this one. My phone rang again. This time I answered. Kaya. His voice was frantic, stripped of the confidence he always carried. I stayed silent. You sent that email? Are you serious? Do you have any idea what you've done? I know exactly what I've done, I said calmly. I made sure they saw you for who you really are. God, Kaya, this is my career. What the hell is wrong with you? I exhaled, leaning back in my chair. Oh, now it matters? Now you care about consequences? Funny, because when I was sitting there, drenched in wine, listening to you laugh, you didn't seem too concerned about my reputation. That was different. No, I interrupted. It wasn't. His breath came in sharp and uneven, his frustration barely contained. Look, we don't have to do this. You're mad, I get it, but we can fix this. Just tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you were overreacting. We can make this go away. I almost laughed. Even now, he thought I could be persuaded, that I could be managed. You still don't get it, do you? I said softly. I don't want to fix this, James. I want you to feel what it's like to lose everything. Silence, then a quiet, strained whisper. You're really doing this? I already did. The fallout was swift. By the next morning, James's boss had called him in for an urgent meeting. By the afternoon, he was suspended, pending an internal review. And by the end of the week, the company announced his termination. He tried to fight it, tried to argue that it was unfair, that it was a private matter, that his wife was just vindictive. But the video spoke louder than his words ever could. And it wasn't just his job he lost. His reputation collapsed. Clients pulled out of projects. Colleagues distanced themselves. Friends stopped returning his calls. It wasn't just about the dinner party anymore. People started remembering all the other things, the offhanded sexist comments, the way he always dismissed women in meetings, the microaggressions. His world wasn't falling apart. It was revealing itself for what it always was. And without his power, his charm, his connections, James was nothing. A week after his termination, James showed up at my apartment. I almost didn't answer, but I wanted to see him, to look him in the eye one last time. When I opened the door, I barely recognized him. His once pristine suit was wrinkled, his confidence gone, replaced with something hollow and desperate. "Kaya," he said, his voice softer now. "Can we talk?" I studied him for a long moment. "Talk," I repeated. "Like we always did, where you talk and I sit there and take it." He let out a breath, shaking his head. "I messed up, okay? I get that. But this is too much." "Too much?" I tilted my head. "You mean like throwing a drink in my face in front of an audience? Like laughing at me while I sat there humiliated? Like treating me like I was less than for years?" He swallowed hard. "I just need some time to fix things," he murmured. I need your help." I almost pitied him. Almost. "You always needed my help, James. You just never wanted to admit it." He looked down, rubbing the back of his neck. "I guess I just thought you'd always be there." I exhaled slowly. "Yeah," I said. "So did I." I closed the door in his face, and this time I didn't look back. The door clicked shut, sealing James out of my life for good. I leaned against it for a moment, exhaling slowly, letting the silence settle. No more manipulation, no more mind games, no more waiting for an apology that would never come. For the first time in years, I was free, and I had never felt lighter. I didn't have to check up on James to know what happened next. The whispers started almost immediately. His fall from grace had been public, and the people who once admired him now avoided him. He tried to land another job in the same field, but word had spread. His reputation was stained, and in an industry built on relationships, he had burned too many bridges. He wasn't just out of work. He was out of power. The same friends who used to laugh at his jokes suddenly weren't returning his calls. His savings, what little was left, was draining fast. He tried to fight the divorce settlement, but with the evidence I had collected, his lawyer practically begged him to settle quietly. He lost the house, he lost the respect of his peers, and eventually he lost himself. Lily texted me once, saying she had seen him at a bar, alone, looking small, looking unimportant. I didn't reply. I didn't need to because I didn't care. My life, on the other hand, flourished. The apartment I had moved into wasn't temporary, it was a fresh start. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. Bright, warm, no traces of James's cold, modern aesthetic. And my business thrived. Without James belittling me, without him making me question my worth, I poured everything into it. I expanded, I hired more people, and for the first time in a long time, I realized just how much I had been holding myself back when I was with him. People started reaching out, not because of what had happened with James, but because of what I had done afterward. "You're an inspiration," one woman wrote. "I watched your story unfold, and it gave me the courage to leave my own toxic marriage." Others followed, stories of women who had once felt trapped, just like I had. And that's when I realized something. My revenge hadn't been about destroying James. It had been about rebuilding myself. 6 months after I closed the door in his face, I saw James again. It wasn't planned. I was at a networking event, laughing with new business contacts, when I spotted him across the room. He wasn't dressed in the crisp suits he used to wear. His tie was slightly loose, his confidence muted, and he was alone. I didn't approach him. I didn't need to. But he saw me. And in that moment, I watched something shift in his expression. Regret, not because he had lost me, but because he had never truly seen me until it was too late. For a second, I almost expected him to walk over, to try one last time. But he didn't, because he knew I had won. That night, I went home to my apartment, the one filled with laughter, with warmth, with peace. I poured a glass of wine, sat by the window, and exhaled. This time, I wasn't drowning in red wine and humiliation. I was celebrating. Not revenge, not victory, but freedom. James had thought that throwing that wine in my face was the punchline to some cruel joke, but he had been wrong. It wasn't the end of my story. It was only the beginning. Looking back, I, Kaya, learned that my worth was never tied to James or his approval. His cruelty, that wine thrown in my face, wasn't just a moment of humiliation. It was a mirror showing me how much I'd dimmed my own light to fit into his world. I spent years excusing his behavior, convincing myself it wasn't that bad. But that night, clarity hit. Love doesn't belittle, and strength isn't staying silent. Leaving him wasn't just about escaping pain. It was about reclaiming my voice, my value, my life. I learned that freedom comes from choosing yourself, even when it's terrifying, even when it means walking away from everything familiar. Every step I took, moving money, sending that email, building my business, was a brick in the foundation of a new me. I didn't just survive James. I thrived because I stopped waiting for his permission to shine. The greatest lesson? You don't need to destroy someone else to rise. You just need to stop letting them define you. That glass of wine wasn't the end of my story. It was the spark that set me free.
The glass walls of Laura Bennett's corner office gleamed under the pale Seattle sunlight, framing a view of Puget Sound's restless waves. Zuri Mitchell sat across from her manager, her navy blazer crisp, her posture composed, but her fingers curled tightly beneath the mahogany desk. At 38, Zuri had learned to mask frustration, but the sting was sharp today. Laura, 52, her auburn hair swept into a flawless updo, leaned forward with a smile that felt rehearsed. Her voice, smooth as caramel, carried a practiced warmth. Megan Harper's getting promoted to head of data analytics. She said, "She's got that spark. Zuri, she inspires the team, brings everyone together. You're exceptional with numbers. But Megan, she's just more approachable." Zuri's jaw tightened, but she held her gaze steady. Approachable. The word echoed like a verdict. Laura's office, with its sleek chrome accents and abstract art, seemed to close in. Zuri had joined Nexlify Technologies 5 years ago, leaving a stable consulting career to dive into the tech world with relentless drive. She'd poured herself into the company, working late nights to refine algorithms, crafting presentations under impossible deadlines, and steering client accounts through storms no one else could navigate. Her efforts had boosted Nexlify's data processing efficiency by 150%, saving $1.5 million annually. She'd built an AI system that streamlined operations, cutting costs by thousands of dollars monthly, and single-handedly salvaged a $10 million contract with a Fortune 500 client. Her work was the backbone of the department. Yet here was Laura, praising Megan's spark. Megan Harper, 32, was a master of optics. Her LinkedIn brimmed with motivational quotes. Her Instagram showcased curated moments from company retreats, and her laughter filled the break room. But her contributions, thin at best. She'd led one minor project, leaning heavily on Zuri's frameworks, and spent more time planning team happy hours than analyzing data. Zuri's nails pressed deeper into her palms as Laura shuffled papers, waiting for a gracious response. The expectation hung heavy. Zuri should nod, smile, and accept the slight. Instead, she reached into her leather satchel and drew out a pristine white envelope, its edges sharp as her resolve. "I appreciate your candor," Zuri said, her voice calm but unyielding. She slid the envelope across the desk, its weight seeming to shift the air. This is my resignation. Effective 2 weeks from today. Laura's smile froze, her eyes widening as if Zuri had overturned the desk itself. Zuri. Hold on, she stammered, her polished demeanor cracking. Let's discuss this. There's no need to rush. Zuri tilted her head, her expression serene but firm. You've made your priorities clear. Laura. I'm focused on outcomes. And that's why I'm leaving. She stood, smoothing her blazer, her movements deliberate. Laura's mouth opened, but no words came. The envelope lay untouched. A silent challenge. What Laura didn't suspect, what no one at Nexlify had noticed, was that Zuri hadn't been idle. For 2 years, she'd been building something of her own. A side project born from frustration but fueled by vision. Outside company hours. Using her resources, Zuri had developed an AI tool for predictive project risk analysis. A system poised to transform tech workflows. It was patented, registered, and already generating interest from industry players. Her company, quietly incorporated, was gaining traction. This wasn't a defeat, it was a pivot. Zuri hadn't lost today. She'd outgrown Nexlify's narrow lens. As she stepped toward the door, the hum of the open plan office beyond seemed to pause. Colleagues glanced up from their monitors. Sensing a shift, Zuri's heels clicked against the hardwood floor. Each step, a Kiat declaration. She wasn't just walking away, she was stepping into something bigger. The open plan office of Nexlify Technologies was filled with unbridled energy in the days after Zuri Mitchell resigned. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, glinting off the space tower in the distance. But the air on the 23rd floor felt tense, like the air before a storm. Co-workers glanced at Zuri, 38, as she worked at her desk near the window overlooking Puget Sound. Her navy blazer hung neatly on her chair, and her movements were calm and methodical, as if it were just another Monday. But whispers spread throughout the work area, and all eyes were on Megan Harper, 32, who was striding through the cubicles with a Starbucks latte in hand, her blonde hair glinting in the light. Megan's promotion to Director of Data Analytics sent a message, and she relished it. Her laugh louder, her presence bolder, as if she had taken over Tsuri's desk. Megan was a study in curated confidence. Her Instagram stories were filled with hashtags like women in tech and photos from Nexlify's rooftop parties. Her smile always directed at the camera. She wore tailored jumpsuits and spoke in buzzwords. But her work was heavily dependent on others, especially Zuri. The project Megan had led last quarter, Zuri's algorithms had driven it, yet Megan moved around the office like a star, oblivious to the gaps in her expertise. Meanwhile, Zuri's focus was elsewhere. At her desk, she opened a secure cloud drive on her laptop, meticulously archiving 5 years of contributions. Not to steal, but to document every report she compiled, every process she optimized, every dollar she saved. Every file was a testament to her impact. She had increased Nexlify's data throughput by 150%, saving $1.5 million a year. Her AI system had streamlined workflows, cutting thousands of hours off project delays. These weren't just numbers, they were her legacy. Zuri worked with precision, ensuring that no company resource was left untouched. This was her work, her testimony, built on her own time and talent. No one at Nexlify knew that she had spent 2 years developing something bigger, a predictive AI tool for analyzing project risk, coded in her Capitol Hill apartment after hours. It wasn't just a program, it was a revolution, capable of predicting delays and optimizing resources with uncanny accuracy. Last week, the patent was approved, a quiet victory that had bolstered her composure. Her spin-off company, founded 6 months ago, was fielding inquiries from tech companies. Zuri wasn't just leaving Nexlify, she was forging ahead on her own. On Thursday, Megan leaned over Zuri's cubicle wall, her lat steaming, her voice dripping with fake empathy. Zuri, I know you want that position, she said, her lips curling into a half smile. I hope you're not too discouraged. It's just work. You know, Zuri paused, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Looking at Megan, her eyes were steady, her smile cold. Don't be so hard on yourself. Megan, she said, her tone even. I'm sure you'll shine. Megan nodded, satisfied, and walked away, her heels clicking. She didn't see Zuri continue her work, recording the final numbers that had underpinned Nexlify's success numbers that Megan would soon struggle to replicate. Zuri's calm was her shield, her focus, her weapon. She knew Megan's confidence rested on a fragile foundation, one that Zuri had built. The office might applaud Megan's charm now, but charm didn't run algorithms or save multi-million-dollar contracts. The aroma of roasted coffee beans filled the air at a bustling cafe in Pike Place Market, where Zuri Mitchell sat across from Ethan Carter, CEO of Peak Pulse Solutions, Nexlify's fiercest rival in Seattle's tech scene. It was a crisp spring morning in May, the Puget Sound shimmering beyond the market's cobblestone streets. Zuri, 38, wore a tailored gray blazer, her posture relaxed but alert. Ethan, 45, exuded quiet confidence in a charcoal cashmere sweater, his voice steady as he leaned forward. We've been watching your work. Zuri, he said, sliding a sleek folder across the table. Your AI system at Nexlify, it's a game changer. We want you as a partner, with equity, autonomy, and a chance to shape our future. The offer wasn't just a job, it was a stake in something bigger. Zuri's pulse quickened, but her expression remained composed. She opened the folder, scanning the terms: a leadership role, a 10% equity share, and resources to scale her vision. We value results, Ethan added, his eyes meeting hers. Not optics. Zuri signed the contract, the pen's scratch a quiet anthem of recognition. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not for her smile, but for her substance. Back at Nexlify, the weight of Zuri's resignation had begun to sink in. The white envelope she'd left on Laura Bennett's desk held more than a farewell. Tucked inside was a second document, a meticulously crafted report detailing the impact of her predictive AI tool. The system, developed on her own time, had slashed project risks by 40%, boosted team efficiency by 150%, and saved Nexlify $2 million annually. Zuri had proposed integrating it firm-wide 3 times over 2 years. But Laura, 52, had dismissed each pitch, prioritizing team synergy over innovation. The report laid it bare: every major win in the data analytics department traced back to Zuri's tool. It was her trump card, played not out of spite, but to ensure her legacy was undeniable. Laura summoned Zuri to her corner office on the 23rd floor, the Space Needle piercing the skyline beyond. The manager's polished veneer had cracked, her auburn hair was slightly askew, her voice unsteady as she clutched the report. Zuri, why didn't you tell us this tool was so critical? She asked, her fingers trembling. Zuri sat across from her, calm as ever, her navy blazer immaculate. I did, she replied evenly. 3 proposals, all rejected. You said interpersonal dynamics were your focus. Laura's face paled as she scanned the pages again, charts of cost savings, timelines of project successes, all tied to Zuri's patented system. This is patented, she whispered. Zuri nodded. Filed last summer. Approved last month. Peak Pulse is already planning to scale it. Laura's desperation surfaced. Stay, she blurted. We'll make you vice president. Double your salary. Name your terms. Zuri tilted her head, her gaze unflinching. It was never about the title or the money. Laura, it's about being valued. You chose Megan's charm over my contributions. I found a place that sees my worth. She rose, her heels clicking against the hardwood, and left the office. Behind her, Laura's voice cracked as she dialed the board, her panic audible through the glass walls. Zuri didn't look back. The bullpen fell silent as she passed, colleagues sensing the tide had turned. Zuri Mitchell's new office at Peak Pulse Solutions, sat high above Seattle's waterfront, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing Puget Sound's restless tides and the distant Olympic Mountains. At 38, she stood at her desk. A polished nameplate reading Zuri Mitchell. Partner. Strategic AI. Gleaming under soft lighting. The space was modern glass partitions, ergonomic chairs, and a minimalist aesthetic that spoke of purpose over flash. It was spring of 2025, and Zuri had been with Peak Pulse for 3 months. Her predictive AI tool already reshaping the company's operations. Ethan Carter, the 45-year-old CEO, had welcomed her with a company-wide meeting. His voice resonant as he stood before 200 employees. Zuri's work isn't just innovative, he said, gesturing to a screen displaying her tool's metrics. It's transformative. It's cut project timelines by 50% and drawn 2 Fortune 500 clients to our door. The room had erupted in applause. Not for show, but for substance. Zuri felt a quiet warmth in her chest recognition, rooted in results. Not optics. Under her leadership, Peak Pulse thrived. Her AI system, now fully integrated, streamlined workflows, boosting client satisfaction to record highs and saving $3 million in operational costs. Zuri's team of 30 analysts and engineers respected her not for charm, but for clarity and vision. Last week, Ethan had called her into his office. His charcoal sweater traded for a crisp blazer. The board's unanimous, he said, handing her a new contract. You're our new director of strategic innovation. Effective immediately. Zuri signed. Her signature steady. Knowing this was no token promotion, it was earned. Built on the backbone of her patented tool and relentless drive. Meanwhile, Nexlify Technologies was unraveling. A text from Tariq Johnson, Zuri's 40-year-old former colleague, lit up her phone one rainy afternoon. Check GeekWire. It read. Zuri slipped into her office, the Seattle skyline cloaked in mist, and pulled up the article. The headline was Stark Nexlify Technologies loses 25% of clients amid system failures. The report detailed a cascade of missed deadlines, budgets ballooning by millions of dollars, and 3 major clients defecting to rivals. Nexlify's infrastructure, it read, relies on undocumented processes, now absent, leaving teams scrambling. A quote from a former client, the CEO of a biotech firm, hit hard. Nexlify was once our gold standard for data solutions. Now they can't deliver basic reports on time. Zuri's lips curved into a faint smile. She'd been that infrastructure. Her AI tool the unseen engine of their success. Without it, and her Nexlify was a ship adrift. Tariq's next message confirmed the chaos. Megan's unraveling. He wrote, she's been yelling in the break room, blaming everyone but herself. Megan Harper, 32, had coasted on curated charisma. But charisma couldn't parse data or manage complex systems. Her promotion, once a triumph, now exposed her limits. Zuri leaned back, rain streaking her office windows, and felt no need for vengeance. Her victory was in the work, her tool, her team, her new horizon at Peak Pulse. She thought of others like her, grinding in the shadows while flashier colleagues stole the spotlight. Zuri Mitchell stood in her office at Peak Pulse Solutions. The late spring sunlight of May 2025 spilling through windows that framed Seattle's Puget Sound. At 38, she exuded quiet authority. Her tailored gray blazer, a contrast to the sleek, modern space around her. A framed patent certificate for her predictive AI tool hung on the wall, beside a cover of Fast Company naming her among the top 10 innovators in artificial intelligence. Her desk held a polished plaque for Peak Pulse's record-breaking quarter, a testament to her leadership. As she reviewed a proposal for a Fortune 500 client, her laptop chimed with an unexpected email. The sender's name stopped her, Laura Bennett, her former manager at Nexlify Technologies. The subject line read simply, an apology. Zuri opened the message. Her expression unreadable. Laura's words were raw, stripped of the polished veneer she'd once worn. I've followed your success at Peak Pulse. She wrote, dismissing your AI tool was the gravest mistake of my career. The board now knows how vital you were. Your system drove our wins. And we're paying for our oversight. I resigned last month. Megan Harper stepped down weeks ago, unable to handle the department's collapse. I'm sorry. Zuri, you deserved better. The email was a confession. A belated reckoning from a woman who'd once valued charm over substance. Zuri read it twice, the words stirring a flicker of old wounds, but no bitterness. She'd moved beyond needing Laura's validation. Leaning back, Zuri gazed at the Puget Sound, its waves catching the afternoon light. 5 years at Nexlify had taught her resilience. But Peak Pulse had shown her what true recognition felt like. Her AI tool had saved $3 million in costs, cut project timelines by 50%, and secured contracts with 2 Fortune 500 firms. Her promotion to Director of Strategic Innovation was no gesture, it was earned, built on measurable impact. Laura's apology, while poetic, was merely a footnote in a story Zuri had already rewritten. She clicked reply and typed a concise response. Thank you for your message. Laura, results matter. As you now see, I wish you well in your next chapter. She hit send, her fingers steady, and closed the laptop. The past was settled, her focus was the future. Zuri thought of others who'd faced similar slights, professionals whose work was overlooked for flashier facades. She'd been there, grinding through late nights, while Megan's Instagram posts won applause. But she'd turned rejection into a launchpad, building a patented tool and a career that spoke louder than any apology. Her story wasn't unique, but it was a beacon. If you've ever been told you're too focused, too serious, or not sparkly enough, this is for you. Her voiceover would tell viewers, you're not imagining the unfairness. Your work matters, even if they don't see it yet. Zuri was passed over, but she didn't shrink. She built something unstoppable. You can too. She paused, imagining the countless others pouring their hearts into work only to be sidelined. Don't wait for their permission. She'd urge, their doubt is your fuel. Start creating. Start building. Start proving your worth to yourself. Subscribe to this channel and drop your story in the comments. Tell me where you are in your journey. Have you been overlooked? Are you ready to rise? We're building a community here, one that celebrates quiet strength and real results. Stay with me, because Zuri's next move will show you what happens when you bet on yourself. Zuri turned back to her proposal, the Seattle skyline glowing gold. Laura's email had closed a chapter, but Zuri was already writing a new one of leadership, innovation, and legacy. Nexlify's collapse was a distant echo. Peak Pulse was her present, and the industry was her future. She wasn't just surviving, she was redefining the game. Zuri Mitchell stood before a conference room at Peak Pulse Solutions, the Seattle skyline stretching beyond the glass walls, Puget Sound shimmering under the May 2025 sun. At 38, she commanded the space with quiet confidence. Her tailored gray blazer sharp against the room's modern decor, her team of 30 analysts, engineers, and designers filled the seats, their eyes attentive. Not out of obligation, but genuine respect. Today's not about metrics or code. Zuri began, her voice steady and warm. It's about value, seeing it in yourselves and each other. Never let anyone dim your worth because you don't play their game. Heads nodded, faces lit with understanding. They saw her not as a boss, but as a leader who'd walked through fire to stand where she did. Her predictive AI tool, now a cornerstone of Peak Pulse, had slashed project timelines by 50%, saved $3 million, and secured contracts with 3 Fortune 500 firms. But Zuri's impact went beyond numbers. She was building a culture where results trumped flash. Later that afternoon, Zuri sat at her desk, the Space Needle piercing the horizon. A news alert from GeekWire caught her eye. Nexlify Technologies slashes half its workforce. Leases, Seattle headquarters. The article painted a grim picture: clients fleeing, budgets spiraling, and a once proud logo now faded on a building, marked, "For lease." Zuri felt no smugness, only gratitude. Nexlify's rejection had freed her to build something greater. Her old office, with its beige walls and petty politics, seemed a lifetime away. Here, at Peak Pulse, her office gleamed with purpose, a framed patent, a Fast Company cover, and a plaque for her team's record-breaking quarter. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tariq Johnson, her 40-year-old former colleague at Nexlify. "Board's asking if you'd return as CEO." He wrote, "They're desperate." Zuri paused, her fingers hovering over the screen, then typed back, "Thank you, Tariq, but I'm where I belong." She set the phone down, a faint smile crossing her lips. Success wasn't about proving Nexlify wrong. It was about proving herself right. She'd turned their doubt into a patented tool, a directorship, and a legacy that reshaped an industry. Returning would be stepping backward, and Zuri only moved forward. She thought of the countless others like her quiet professionals whose work was overshadowed by louder voices. Her journey, from Nexlify's dismissal to Peak Pulse's spotlight, was their beacon. There are Zuris out there. Her voiceover would tell viewers, people grinding, delivering, but passed over because they don't dazzle. If that's you, this is your sign. Rejection isn't a wall, it's a door. Their no is your chance to build something they can't ignore. She'd pause, her words deliberate. Don't shrink to fit their comfort. Use their silence as space to create. Your value isn't in their applause. It's in what you build with your own hands. Zuri leaned forward, her tone rising with conviction. Subscribe to this channel and share your story in the comments. Tell me, where are you in your fight? Have you been overlooked? Are you ready to rise? We're creating a community for those who believe in quiet strength, in resilience, in results over noise. Let's show the world what happens when the underestimated stand tall. She'd end with a call to action. Stop waiting for their validation. Start building your legacy today. Your doubt is their mistake, and your work is your proof. Stay with me, because this isn't just my story, it's ours. As Zuri drove home to her Capitol Hill townhouse, the Seattle skyline fading in her rear view, she passed Nexlify's dimmed headquarters. The for-lease sign flickered, a relic of choices made and chances lost. Zuri felt no regret, only peace. Their rejection had been her greatest gift, pushing her to a place where her work spoke loudest. She was exactly where she was meant to be, leading, innovating, and inspiring others to claim their worth. Zuri Mitchell's journey in the YouTube script reveals a profound lesson about self-worth and the power of resilience in the face of underestimation. Initially, Zuri, a 38-year-old data analytics expert at Nexlify Technologies in Seattle, believes her value lies in external validation recognition from her manager, Laura Bennett, or the promotion she tirelessly earns. When Laura overlooks Zuri's transformative contributions, saving $1.5 million annually and boosting efficiency by 150%, and promotes the less competent but charismatic Megan Harper, Zuri faces a crushing injustice. Her 5 years of late nights, innovative AI development, and salvaged client contracts seem invisible, and Laura's dismissal stings deeply, reinforcing Zuri's fear that her focus on results makes her too serious or unlikable. However, this rejection becomes a catalyst for self-discovery. As Zuri resigns and joins Peak Pulse Solutions, where her patented AI tool thrives, she learns that her worth isn't defined by others' applause, but by her impact. The collapse of Nexlify, losing 25% of its clients without her systems, and Laura's belated apology underscore that Zuri was the backbone of their success. Yet she no longer needs their regret to feel whole. At Peak Pulse, leading a team of 30 and earning a directorship, Zuri realizes that true success comes from building something undeniable, her tool, her legacy on her terms, refusing Nexlify's disparity CEO offer. She cements her understanding. Validation is internal, forged through persistence and purpose. Zuri's lesson is that rejection, though painful, is a redirection to a path where her quiet strength shines. inspiring her to tell others. Your value isn't in their praise, it's in what you create. This epiphany transforms her from a professional seeking approval to a leader who empowers herself and others to rise above doubt, proving that self-belief, not external affirmation, builds an unstoppable legacy.